Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to Taking Stock Live. It is my pleasure to be here with you yet another week, back on the island, back in Jamrock, so back at KRM Studios. Notice anything different about me? Anything at all? Yeah, I kind of got a little haircut, a little bit shorter than I wanted it, but so it goes sometimes. My pleasure to be in your excellent presence for yet another week. Like I said, let me know in the comments where you're joining us from this week, what part of the island, what part of the world. I love to shout you out. I love to see and hear where everybody is from. We've got another exciting show coming up this week. And of course, my masterclass launches is supposed to launch yesterday. I keep having to push it back, but there's just so much going on. And trust me, I've been putting in the work. Lots and lots of work going into this masterclass, trying to get everything just right. I'm somewhat of a perfectionist, but I'm going to have to launch it anyway. So we're looking at next week, Monday now, as the new launch date. So stay with us, bear with us. It is coming, and it's going to be an excellent product with so many resources that you can use from now and throughout time. So let's get right on with the show. You want to know what's coming up? Well, here's a look at what we have in store for you this show, as well as what's hot in business. Embracing the new digital world, announcing that it would become the first country in the world to establish an embassy in the Metaverse. With Facebook leading the way in developing the space, what should you know about the Metaverse and how will it impact all of our lives? And the analysts weigh in on the latest market developments. The economy is on track to continue growing into next year. Chinese regulators are pressing executives of ride-hailing giant Didi Global to delist from the New York Stock Exchange over concerns about data security. But is that really the reason? And the Dow Jones suffered its worst day of the year on news of the new Omicron Covid variant found in South Africa. Should you be concerned? We'll discuss. But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
Stock markets across the world, as well as oil prices, dropped sharply on Friday after the discovery of a new COVID variant. It's making people again worry about economic recovery. The Dow Jones Industrial Average had its worst day of the year, dropping more than 1,000 points before recovering slightly to 905 points, or 2.5%. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite also slipped a little over 2%. Over in the UK, the FTSE 100 index was down almost 4%. Main markets in Germany and France also sank, and oil prices dropped more than 10%. The World Health Organization has named the new variant, first detected in South Africa, Omicron. It's now in the same category as the Delta variant, which quickly became the world's most prevalent strain. Virologists are now trying to determine if Omicron is more transmissible and could potentially evade vaccines. Several countries, including Jamaica and the US, have now imposed restrictions on travelers from African countries. Ratings agency Moody's has affirmed Jamaica's credit ratings at B2. They've also kept the outlook stable. According to Moody's, the rating affirmation reflects Jamaica's strong commitment to fiscal consolidation, which it says will support declining government debt metrics after a temporary increase. The rating also comes against the backdrop of low growth, limited diversification, and the small size of the economy. The agency says those structural factors constrain Jamaica's economic and credit prospects. Moody's says the stable outlook also reflects balanced risks to the rating. Meanwhile, the Planning Institute of Jamaica PIOJ says the prospects for the economy are positive, with growth projected to be in the range of 5 to 8% this quarter. That's expected to result in calendar year growth of 3 to 6% and growth of 6 to 9% for the current fiscal year. For the previous July to September quarter, PIOJ has estimated growth of over 6%. It says the outturn for that quarter largely reflected the impact of the relaxation of COVID-19 containment measures globally and increased business confidence. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says the estimates for the third quarter of the year indicate that economic recovery is gaining momentum. Victoria Mutual Investments VMIL is acquiring 100% shareholding in Republic Funds Barbados Inc. Republic Funds owns and operates the Republic Bank Barbados, which comprises Republic Property Fund, Republic Income Fund, and Republic Capital Growth Fund. VMIL expects the transaction to close by August 2022. However, it's subjected to regulatory approval. The cost of the acquisition has not been disclosed. It's the second Barbados acquisition for VMIL. In 2019, they acquired a 30% stake in the fintech online learning company Kalilah. Former head of Salada Foods Jamaica, Diana Blake Bennett, has been named CEO of Caribbean Dreams Food, the Jamaican tea's manufacturing spin-off company. Blake Bennett's appointment took effect November 15. She relieves Group CEO John Mahfood of responsibilities for the manufacturing division. Mahfood is now focused on the growth of the Jamaican Tea's real estate division, its investment company QWI, and its supermarket businesses Bay City Foods and Shoppers Delight. Jamaican Teas intends to list the new subsidiary by early 2022. What's Hot was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
Hey moneymakers, you're not an official part of the family until you have your merch. Visit KalilahReynolds.com/store to order your t-shirt and your mask today. Let's get this money. This segment of Taking Stock is brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency, insurance made easy, and Appleton Estate, Jamaican excellence. All right. Yes, there we are. Welcome back. Welcome back. Glad to have everybody joining us in the house live. Big ups to Danny, who says greetings from Kingston. Astina Daly was the first one to comment. So good night to you, Astina. Jermaine Blackwood says good night, everyone. Cart Beckford is in Portmore City. Astina's in Spanish Town. Joey hailing from Montego Bay. Ruthann in Kingston. Astina says she was wondering what happened to the masterclass. Yeah, I'm late with it because I was traveling all of last week and I had all these plans to do all this work last week. Trust me, never happened. Not a thing. I was so busy catching up with family and eating all that good food that, yeah, my bad, guys. I didn't make my own self-imposed deadline, but trust me, I've been working this week trying to catch up with everything and it will be out soon. So looking at Monday. So big ups to Derek in Angel, Spanish Town. Ingrid, who says investing is the new sexy. Glad you know, Ingrid. Definitely a day one fan. Lavar says Mandeville checking in. Sean is tuning in from Toronto. Simone there in Maypen. Clarendon. Cruz up in Portmore. J.A. Patriots in Ochi. Romario in Kingston. Somebody else says good night from Montego Bay. Hi, everyone. Whatever part of the country, whatever part of the world you are tuning in this evening, I want to say a special welcome to you. We're talking about the metaverse today. Can you imagine what a Jamaican metaverse would be like? Like, seriously, I was sitting here thinking, what would be happening in the metaverse? Like, what all creative and interesting things from Jamaica, live from this country, would be going on in a metaverse. People are so creative. You saw that that video that I showed in the opening segment that was developed by a Jamaican YouTuber. He has a channel on YouTube. I need to find that and post that in the chat before the show ends because the shows are hilarious. The dialogue is so funny and the animation. I just find it so cool that it's done completely locally. So we're talking about the metaverse today, its implications, its possible impact, and where we are likely to be going with this. And my guests are online business strategist Karen Rose and co-founder and director of Tech Beach Retreat, Kyle Maloney. Hi, Karen. Hi, Kyle.
Good night. Hey. Good night. How are you?
Good night. Good night.
So, Karen, it's your first time on this show. I've been on your show, and you're finally on my show. So welcome.
Everything in the right timing.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to have you. And Kyle, hi as well. I've always heard about Tech Beach. I've always heard great things about Tech Beach Retreat.
Yeah, man.
which
Pleasure
was
to be here. Pleasure to
which
be
was
here.
virtual this year, right?
Yeah, we've been having a number of virtual things throughout the course of this year. We weren't able to have our mainstay event, but we've been really focused on our accelerator program throughout the course of 2021, which has been a pretty large success. And so we're grateful for the progress that we've been able to make this year.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so Karen, let me start with you. What the heck is the metaverse?
Well, essentially, it is going to be a mix of augmented reality, virtual reality, based on decentralized land and blockchain. So nobody really owns it, and you're going to be able to buy up space in this virtual land. There's multiple metaverses that are being built. I think the one big news with Facebook coming on board and building their own metaverse is they're going to be making it more mainstream and some of the other companies that have been building their metaverses, and also Microsoft building their own metaverse as well.
Oh,
So that's a bit of,
really?
yeah. Microsoft had their event early November,
I missed
and
that
they're
one.
launching. Yeah, they're building their own metaverse. They're launching their own suite of products. So again, there's not just one metaverse. There's multiple metaverses.
Well, isn't
And
the metaverse like one big thing, like the universe, and then maybe you have different countries in the metaverse, different spaces in the metaverse?
because there's multiple metaverses, different industries are building their own metaverses. So there's going to be fashion metaverses, industrial metaverses. Microsoft is building an enterprise metaverse. So there's a wide variety of metaverses being built. We are very, very early, and we're going to be seeing a lot of interesting developments as time goes by.
Interesting. So, Kyle, tell me a little bit about what Caribbean tech entrepreneurs are doing that you're aware of that may be able to fit into this space or take advantage of this space.
Yeah. So what I think conversations about the metaverse have been happening for quite some time, even before Facebook has come with this announcement, right? And so it's just like a testament to even Caribbean founders being on the money. I've been part of conversations with founders that are thinking about tourism, because obviously tourism is our leading product in the Caribbean. There are a couple founders that are actively thinking about how do we create content within the metaverse, and how do we create content that relates to that sort of augmented reality as well, merging between real life and the virtual reality. And so thinking of creating content within these spaces has been something that we've been actively thinking about and working to build products around for the longest while. And so we're super excited to see what comes of it within the next few months, within the next couple of years,
What type of industries are best poised to jump on board this new paradigm? Are we looking at animation, businesses? What type of business are best for it?
Karen.
I think there's three key industries from the Caribbean that are going to excel in this space. And that's one, tourism. What I imagine tourism being is, if you have, we go online from other countries, we look at pictures from different travel agencies to see, what beaches, what resorts, or what things to do kind of stand out. Just imagine tourism being an immersive event. So picture Duns River Falls. If I've never been to Duns River Falls or Jamaica, and you guys can now create immersive events, immersive sites, and I could visit these places in the metaverse, that'll entice me to want to visit it in person.
Real life.
The next thing is,
because I was like, but the metaverse version of Duns River can't replace the real Duns River.
It will never, but it will tease you enough to think about it. So one, tourism. I think with culture, I could imagine a situation where we have a lot of Caribbean stories, and trying to sell that to the younger generation to visit certain Caribbean islands, to look at the history or visit historical sites is a bit of a stretch at times. What I think could happen is we can now create immersive storytelling events where people can watch Caribbean stories in the metaverse. And that's something that we could package and push globally without having to get people to come here to visit some historical stories or whatnot.
And on that note, I think the metaverse is going to really transform education, because can you imagine being able to virtually visit places that you only learn about in school or on textbooks? Sometimes you may watch a movie about, and you can even go back in history, visit places that used to exist in the metaverse. That's pretty cool. What was the third one?
Education. So think about
there
it.
you go.
Think about it from the sense of, because we've seen that they're also going to be building haptics so that you could feel the metaverse as well. Think about if you are a Caribbean doctor and maybe you don't have the opportunity to physically get trained by some of the best doctors in the world because of cost or logistics. If you can now enter into these immersive trainings, you can tap into those things from anywhere in the world. So I think we're going to be able to now tap into more educational institutions in the metaverse, and that should help raise the level of what we are doing across the region.
Yeah, healthcare as well. You mentioned it briefly, and I saw it touched on in the Newsday article that both of you are quoted in. One of you mentioned that MD Link here in Jamaica is one company that's offering virtual medical services. Imagine being able to go to a doctor virtually. Because let me tell you, my husband is a doctor, right? And I don't know if people really fully understand that Jamaican and Caribbean people body parts are not necessarily the medical term for the body part.
yeah.
So I remember I went on a crime scene one time and this lady said, get shot in my stomach. I'm like, miss, that is not your stomach. But being able to do that virtually, even though the doctor cannot touch you physically, at least you can see things in a more 3D reality. So I think that's pretty cool. It's going to have an impact on so many industries, like you mentioned, Karen. So Kyle, what are you most excited about for the prospects for the metaverse?
I think one thing that that Karen forgot to mention is actually my fourth one would be entertainment. And so Caribbean culture is so globally consumed from an entertainment perspective. I mean, just look at Rihanna. Rihanna just now get the Heroes Award in Barbados, right? And Rihanna is like our modern day Bob Marley. She's like the biggest icon to come from the Caribbean. Being able to immerse yourself in the concert experience and being able to add layers to that concert experience, because these artists do a really good job now of really taking you along a story in their concerts. I don't know if you guys have any access to like the On the Run tour with Jay-Z and Beyonce, and just the amazing work that they do of creating such an immersive story just by being there in the concert, or even just looking at the past footage on video. That now being able to be there and be part of those experiences, and for us to be able to create those types of immersive experiences is gonna be phenomenal. It's going to be phenomenal.
Agreed.
That really is a huge potential game changer for Caribbean entertainment space. Indeed, you can get front row concert tickets to next Buju concert, or a Rihanna concert. Can you imagine in the metaverse?
Everybody is VIP now because everybody have a front row view.
Yes. You mentioned Barbados, Kyle, and I saw in the news where Barbados recently did they establish an embassy in the metaverse, or did they say they were going to establish one?
Yeah, they say they're going to establish one, and so
they will.
Yeah. I personally am still wrapping my mind around the practicality.
An embassy.
Karen,
So,
you have any insights of?
Yeah. So essentially, what has happened so far is they bought up digital land on the biggest metaverse right now, which is a platform called Decentraland. So Barbados bought land on Decentraland, and their goal is now to build an embassy in Decentraland. Now, they've been very tight-lipped as to what types of things you're going to be able to do. But I think one of the things that would make sense for me is right now, if we have to, wherever you are in the world, if you want to come to Barbados and you have to get visas to come into Barbados, the country that you are in might not have an embassy, right? If the embassy is now digital, then anybody can now access the services from Barbados with a digital embassy and not ever have to worry about going into a physical location.
Okay,
so I think that's amazing, and the potential can be crazy. So just Kyle, just imagine, rather than having to go run, I don't even know where Barbados embassy is in Trinidad, but just imagine just logging in digitally into the Metaverse embassy and going and get your visa or doing whatever you need virtually, and then being able to go to Barbados physically.
Yeah. That's like,
how much Metaverse land costs?
man, it ranges.
I just saw this article. I need to share this screen because this is like unbelievable. Hold on. Let me show you guys what I just saw. Can you believe this? Watch this. Where's the headline? Virtual land within the metaverse sells for a record $2.43 million US. That is US dollars. That's not even Jamaican dollars. A 500 square meter plot of virtual real estate has sold for $2.43 million, breaking the record for the largest ever metaverse land acquisition. The purchase by the firm Metaverse Group is more than double the previous record for a sale of land or property within a virtual reality world. Wow. So real estate is going fast. Like
it
but then again,
it depends on which metaverse you're buying the land in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's going to be very popular metaverses, and there's going to be some smaller ones. So there's a metaverse called Upland, and Upland has actually recreated the entire world digitally. So Kalilah, you could buy your property in Jamaica digitally on Upland. So there's a lot of different
metaverses. I have to buy my real house and then buy my metaverse house too?
Correct. Yeah. Somebody could go and find your house in Jamaica and buy it digitally on the metaverse. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's going to be there's a lot, because there's so many different metaverses for different purposes. The gamble is really going to be on who is going to make the most popular one, and that's where you're gonna try to buy up your digital land. And yeah, I'm not, again, we're learning about what you could do with it, and time will tell.
Kyle, how do you feel about the concept of virtual land and buying virtual real estate?
Yeah, this whole thing is wild to me. We're in a whole wild west where it reminds me of the early years of the .com bubble, right? A lot of things that happened really seem like they make sense in the early stages, but then as time goes by and you look back at it and you're like, some things just really were silly. And so you don't want to be that person to jump out and say what is silly and then be proven wrong and have that tweet 10 years later. It's like, you said this.
You like
that some things we'll definitely be laughing at and be like, how that makes sense? Yeah. I cannot tell you that, but I don't want to be the one to have my tweet or my quote posted back in the next 10 years. So I'll go easy and keep some of my thoughts on what I think sounds weird or sounds a little odd to my chest.
I'll add one thing that I'm very interested in is the collaborations in the metaverse, because there's just some things that are not practical. So let's just say if Kyle introduces me to an investor in China in the metaverse, we have things like the logistics of me meeting the person. There's the language barrier. One of the things that I think Microsoft is focusing on is creating these virtual rooms and breaking the language barrier. So I could meet an investor in China and that person not speak a lick of English, but we have our avatars, and our avatars are digital. And then there's a little text bubble. So every time I speak, my text bubble is beside me, translating my English speech into Chinese. And when he speaks Chinese, it's automatically translating in English. And we can meet, we can see our gestures, our facial movements. And then there's the language barrier has been broken down. So I'm really interested in the collaboration and the networking that can happen in the metaverse.
I do love the potential opportunities for business. Indeed, just think about, we could be doing this show in the metaverse. 5 years ago, this show, as we are currently formatted, you guys in Trinidad, Cal, you're in Trinidad, right?
Yeah, today I am.
Exactly. So today you are, but
Yes.
even if you were somewhere else, Aaron could be in Trinidad, you could be in Canada, I could be here in Jamaica. Last week I did the show from Belize, and it doesn't even affect, what happens in the show. 5 years ago, this wasn't necessarily possible. Through this type of platform didn't exist. TV shows were face to face. You have to come here physically. I have to wait till Karen decided to visit Jamaica, and then I heard try grabbing for an interview. In another 5 years, we could be doing the metaverse version of the show, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be a whole different experience. And I think one of the things that the metaverse does is the big
We could have a
limitation.
live studio audience. Everybody who's watching right now in the comments,
that's
they could
exactly
be like
it.
in front row watching us.
It's this, as great as our smartphones are, our smartphones are a limitation because everything has to happen in a 2D space. So the metaverse is going to now remove that barrier of everything happening 2D. And when you have a show, yes, live audience, and it's just going to be a whole immersive experience.
Right. Kyle, what about security issues? Do you have any concerns about security in the metaverse?
Yeah, man. Security is a concern everywhere. Like where there's technology, there is the proponent for bad actors, and entry points. It's gonna be something that consistently evolves, and it's just gonna be with us infinitely. And so, yeah, it's just gonna be part of our life as we try to navigate technology at every touch point. It's something that I actively think about all the time. Like, quite frankly, just the more that I am aware is the more that I want to be disconnected, so that I feel a lot more safe, because like they say, ignorance is bliss. You're spending all that time scrolling on social media, sharing all that stuff on Facebook, and spending all that time, like sharing all the information, and you're blissfully, ignorantly, not really too sure about what's happening, but you're enjoying your time. But in reality, you're just giving away so much data, so much of your information. You're being tracked, you're being monitored all the time. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. And just the amount of levels of I guess what feels like to some people random discrimination at various immigration points, not any one in particular, just globally, and just the levels of monitoring. It just makes you feel like, all right, how can I just be a regular person without be having this active monitoring on a regular basis? And the monitoring doesn't even have to come from government, it can come from anybody at any point in time, and so as we begin thinking about this and going deeper into our immersiveness into technology, it increases our ability to have security breaches almost like 100-fold, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. All I know is that my avatar is gonna be sexy.
Oh shoot!
Gonna get my waist snatched. My avatar gonna be hot to me.
Yeah. I always
You can look however you want to look, Carrot.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact. I mean, so I don't have no issue with that. It should be fun, but it definitely echoes some of
taking catfishing to another level too.
Another level.
Exactly.
Oh boy, this is some footage from Zuckerberg's Metaverse that was released last week, so we get an idea for those who didn't see. It was a really interesting presentation. I actually watched the entire thing. It's like an hour and 42 minutes. This one is the cartoon that I referred to, the animation that was done in Jamaica, and I just referenced it because it looks kind of like a version of what Metaverse characters look like, the 3D animation. So you guys can check out that channel. It is called, let me tell you again, Cartoon Convo, and it's hilarious. I stumbled upon it in preparing for this. It's really funny, but yeah. So everybody, the Metaverse is the next big thing that you all need to look out for. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, Karen and Kyle, all the way from Trinidad, via soon to be the Metaverse. Before you go, so normally I give my guests a gift from Appleton, but you're not here, so we have to take a virtual drink. And let me introduce you to great Christmas gift, by the way. I know they sell this in Trinidad, so take a drink in my name. This is Appleton Estates 21. So this is the good stuff. So I have the 8-year reserve, But you guys, I want you to go out and get the good stuff. This is the 21 Nassau Valley Casks Jamaican rum, aged a minimum of 21 years.
Kyle, that's on my Christmas list, eh?
Wow.
Excellent Christmas gift.
Wow.
Take a drink of rum for me Christmas Day. All right, guys.
Will do.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Kyle and Karen. And to our viewers all across Jamaica, all across the world, please take this week's poll question. And it actually has to do with the new Omicron variant of the COVID-19 virus. So you've heard about this variant, first detected in South Africa. How concerned about the new Omicron variant are you? So is it a big issue for you? Remember when the Delta variant came out, that was like all the headlines. Are you not very concerned? So take the poll on the community section of my YouTube channel. Of course, you know where that is, youtube.com/Kalilah Ray. When you're finished watching the show, you can hop on over to the community tab and take today's poll. Let me see if anybody has answered the question yet, because usually it goes live right around the time we go live. So let me see. Community. Let's see what you guys are saying so far. Is it there? Yes. 49 votes so far. 22% of you say very concerned. It's scary. 51% say not concerned at all. It'll be okay. And 24% say a little concerned, but I'm sure we'll get past this. See, we have one comment so far as well. What's this person saying in the comments? It must be gone. All right, so hop on over there and take that poll as soon as you're finished watching the show. Up next, we have your market recap, and the analysts are standing by. And of Taking Stock was brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency, insurance made easy, and Appleton Estate, Jamaican excellence.
Time now for your market recap, brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments. The Jamaica Stock Exchange advanced, with the combined index gaining a little over 4,000 points or 1%. 110 stocks traded across both the main and junior markets of the JSE for the week ending Friday, November 26, 2021. 59 advanced, 43 declined, and 8 stayed the same. 74 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, totaling nearly $456 million. Trans-Jamaican Highway was the most traded stock. It took up 16% of market volume, with people buying and selling nearly 12 million shares in the company. The stock gained 13 cents to open this new week at $1.32. Sagicor Select F traded at the second highest volume, with people buying and selling nearly 9 million shares in the company. The stock lost 1 cent to open the new week at 50 cents. And Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances rounded out the most traded, taking up nearly 9% of market volume. People bought and sold nearly 7 million shares of the company. The stock was also this week's second biggest loser, losing 24 cents to open this new week at $1.67. Now let's see who had the biggest gains for the week. Productive Business Solutions' 9.75% cumulative redeemable stock price jumped 40% to close last week at $101. Medical Disposables and Supplies climbed nearly 29% to open this week at $6.72. And rounding out our biggest gains, Dolphin Cove is up nearly 21% to open this week at $12.71. JMMB Group 7.25% was the biggest loser for the week, down 34%. The stock was also November's second biggest loser to close last week at $2.40. And rounding off the week's biggest losers, First Rock Capital Holdings USD, which lost 10% to close last week at 6 cents US. Now here's a look at some of the highlights for the month of November. The main index declined by nearly 2%. The junior market declined by 1%. The financial stocks advanced by nearly 1%. And the manufacturing and distribution index declined by 5%. KLE Group stock price rose nearly 59% to close last month at $2.32. SSL Venture Capital Jamaica stock advanced nearly 48% to open this new month December at 96 cents. And rounding off the biggest gains for November, Caribbean Assurance Brokers stock advanced by nearly 36% to close last month at $2.36. 138 Student Living Jamaica was November's biggest loser. The stock was down nearly 38% to close the month at $3.11. And the Caribbean Cement Company rounds out the biggest losers for November, down nearly 27%. Market Recap was brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments. This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, is brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time now for the analysts, and let's see who we have on our panel today. I'm joined by Group Sovereign Research Analyst at JMB, Theodore Mitchell, business writer at The Observer, David Rose, and financial coach, founder, and CEO of Profit Jumpstarter, Keisha Bailey. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, Keisha.
So
Hey, Kalilah.
I just saw the market recap. The November numbers are in. Today's the last day of the month. Manufacturing stocks took a hit, man. What happened with the manufacturing sector? Was it the impact of the Carib cement, David?
Are you talking about last week? Oh, well,
No, well, for the
would have
month
been
of
one
November,
major factor.
manufacturing stocks are down 5% overall, and I saw Carib being one of the biggest losers for the month as well. So I'm guessing that had an impact on overall manufacturing distribution index.
It had a way pulling on effect, and you're right. I remember that Caribbean is one of the largest manufacturing and distribution stocks on the JSE. So, remember Sagicor Select Funds, the manufacturing and distribution shares give us an insight into the kind of weighting of the market. So, it's with Cinco, Carreras, Carib Cement. Those are the three top big guys or companies when it comes on to that sector. So, Carib dropping from 120 or 150 when the month started to around like 70, 80 at the end of the month. That's a big drop. So it would have a big effect on in this case, in turn, the distribution sector.
Yeah. And by the way, I like your fresh cut. Your haircut looks nice, David.
You want to see my haircut in another 2 weeks.
All right, so let's talk about some things that are going on locally, and then we head over to the international scene. Theodore, we are looking at the economy. It's expected to continue growing for the remainder of the fiscal year. So that's up until like around March or so. What are you expecting to see over this time?
Okay, just to note that in the third quarter, we saw a growth of 6.3% as, initial estimate from the Planning Institute of Jamaica, highlighting goods production industry growing by 2.8% and the service industry growing by 7.3%. Notably, on the service side, we saw significant growth in the tourism industry, right? While it is that on the goods producing side, the manufacturing industry grew by 8.5%, which somewhat contradict what is happening in terms of on the stock market, we manufacturing stock. But as David pointed out, what was happening to Carib Cement had a profound impact in terms of the manufacturing indices. Looking over the horizon, I expect to see growth in the fourth quarter of around 4 to 6%, relatively in line with the Planning Institute's number. One thing that I'm anticipating is significant growth in the tourism sector, upwards of 70, 80%. Likewise, construction, I do expect to see continued rise in construction. Notably, I've seen a significant increase in capital spending on the government side, while in the private sector, housing construction and civil engineering activities are likely to continue apace. Looking over the next year in terms of 2020, anticipating growth anywhere between 2 to 3% overall for the players in the stock market. If you may recall that all the corporates operate within a particular sector, so to the extent that we anticipate growth in a number of the sectors across the board, then we should see some vibrant activity with respect to a number of the stocks. As I indicated prior, expect to see growth in the construction sector. A lot of that led by government spending and private sector activity. I do anticipate increase in terms of manufacturing activities as well. With respect to construction, well, I spoke to that already. Hotel and tourism, we should see an uptick there. But there's a bit of concern here because we see a new variant of the COVID-19 causing some scare in the international market. Already, a number of countries have actually restricted travel, but more so with respect to Africa, and it's possible that this variant is present in a number of countries. The positive thing is that having seen a report on Reuters and a number of other agencies. They indicate, in interview with doctors in South Africa, they indicate that while it is that this COVID-19 variant is virulent, they are not seeing anything which warrant any major concern in terms of rate of hospitalization and death. But it's early days yet. But if it is that this virus should be more deadly than what we have seen prior, then it could have implication in terms of the travel industry potentially lockdown of the country to prevent a wide scale spread. But a base case scenario which we expect is for things to be more or less along the line of what we're seeing just now, and for there to be no significant restriction. So given that we're anticipating growth within the 2 to 4% range, and continued growth in most of the sectors.
So, Keisha, Theodore highlighted specific industries that are poised for growth based on PIO data. Are you looking at construction, tourism, really showing a recovery? What are the stocks that we should be keeping our eyes on in these sectors?
Right. So if we're looking from that perspective, we want to look for the top of those sectors. I like the game changers, the industry leaders. So within manufacturing, you could possibly then be looking at a Carib Cement, for example. We had a recent pullback because of news coming around payments that had to be made. But this may present an opportunity for investors to start thinking, okay, maybe I could be getting into Carib Cement here. Another thing you want to be thinking of on the interest rate side, as that comes on, are the banks. Are we potentially looking for an entry point on the banks, and investors could try and get in on that side as well? As we start thinking around the variant, the new variant, are we eventually going to go back to a quasi lockdown, a new version of a lockdown or restrictions? Then we want to start thinking about companies that benefit in the online space within Jamaica and start thinking, yes, we need to get some exposure there.
Right. Yeah. All right. So let's, and I'm going to come back to that Omicron variant shortly as well. But right now, I want to look at an interesting development coming out of China. A couple months ago, ride-hailing company Didi listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Didi Global is like the Chinese version of Uber. And there was a lot of controversy around it because the Chinese regulators were pressing them from then not to list. And now they are trying to get Didi to delist, supposedly over concerns about data security. What's the story there, David?
So right now you're just seeing China continue to extend its iron fist, because the reality is that Didi is saying, hey, we don't, store data in particular ways or structure, because the thing is, the way our big tech currently works is that China is saying, we're concerned about how using the data and so on, the Chinese regulators. Didi is saying, hey, we're following the regulations and so on. And Didi said, we have business to do, bye-bye. Went on the New York Stock Exchange, and what happened was that a couple of days later, they removed their app from the Chinese App Store. And then, we're later hearing now that China is saying, we want you to delist at the New York Stock Exchange, which is basically adding a whole lot of new concerns for investors in Chinese companies. Because the thing is, Chinese companies just do something called an ADR, an American Depository Receipt, which is where you buy a particular receipt that basically has representative ownership in the foreign company, which is probably listed in Hong Kong. And if Didi was to delist to that route, it would not be cheap for one.
Okay, we're having some tech issues with David breaking up there. Keisha, you've been following
Can't
the
risk.
Diddy story?
Yeah, absolutely. So with Didi and David was saying it, the iron fist from China, you do not mess with Xi Jinping and his ultimate objective. So the thing with Didi being an ADR, an American Depository Receipt, is that you get exposure to the company, but it's still listed back in China or Hong Kong, as David was saying. I have some Chinese stocks and they have been under pressure all year because of this. The government has been coming out saying we want more control over these companies that are looking to list internationally. It is one to be aware of, to watch for, because that's caused a lot of these companies like Neo, Tencent to have problems with their prices. The prices have been falling. It's been painful. So right now, not the place you want to be. Didi is saying that what happens to Didi ultimately will be the fate for the other companies as well that have the ADRs listed in the US. So watching out for that. But it's been painful in terms of stock price movement so far. And usually the Chinese government gets what they want. So I think back to David.
Yeah, so speaking of the stock price, let me just share my screen here. This is what Diddy's stock price looked like. So they IPO'd in June, end of June, for $14.14. And it's all the way down now to
Yes.
$7.63. So like almost half the IPO
Painful.
price.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Very, very bad. Yeah. Other companies as well. They've been hit. A lot of these Chinese companies.
You're going to add, David?
Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened a while ago. I was going to add that in. It's just really, China just really putting their foot down, because recently Jamie Dimon said, hey, he thinks JP Morgan could live longer than the CCP. And Jamie Dimon is the CEO of JP Morgan. And he had to retract that statement like a couple of days later. And for you to China saying, hey, we want you to know, delist. They recently banned for-profit education. Jack Ma is still a ghost. Like, it is creating a lot of concern right now with respect to the battle, in a sense, between the USA and China, because recently they actually wanted to delist all Chinese companies in the US, but didn't compare the US accounting standard, because you had frauds like Luckin Dollar, and I feel the Chinese company to the New York market or the US markets, and they were actually frauds, fake financials and everything else. So it's just a continuous part of the whole battle.
So how would that work if Diddy was to delist? Like, what would happen to shareholders?
Problems.
So what I understand right now is that if it was to be the case of a quote-unquote buyout, what could happen is that someone could come in, offer to buy out the ADR holders, and it could go Paris that route, or it could be the case where,
David is gone again? Or did I get kicked off? Okay, David's gone again. What would happen, Keisha?
It would have to be like a couple of options, whether a repurchase from Didi. So they'd have to repurchase all the shares from existing ADR holders. So buying it back, likely at a discount, not at current market value. So you would take a hit there. Or the listing gets pulled off the exchange back in Hong Kong, and then you'd have to battle with trying to transact from Hong Kong instead of in the US. So still overall a problem with liquidity, a problem getting back the full value of what you put in. So
wow, because if they buy it back at a discount to what it's currently trading at, and it's already trading at half the IPO price, if you bought at IPO, like you're really losing. This does not augur well for confidence in Chinese stocks at all.
No. Definitely not. It's been a very troublesome year. David was saying it earlier. Alibaba, for example, lots of problems there. Jack Ma has basically not been on the scene saying anything, because every time he does come out with something, the government they provide some form of censorship towards what he's saying. So he's been quiet all year, and the stocks really have been taking a beating. All Chinese stocks, for sure.
All right, I want to come back to Theodore and take another look at a local issue before we wrap up with the Omicron discussion. Theodore, you have been looking at a specific issue of population dynamics and implications for economic growth, as well as health and infrastructure development. What has caught your attention regarding population dynamics?
This is an ongoing issue. Notably, I was reading the PIOJ's annual report in 2017, and I recognized that the population essentially stabilized at that particular point in time. And notably, the government of Jamaica, via its 2030 vision plan, foresaw the population actually reaching its apex, I think, in 2030. So we have reached that point actually 12 years earlier. Good. So, the population is essentially stable at this point in time, and then it is set to decline. Now, when it is that you look at the birth rate have contracted by more than 64% over a 20-year period. Now, there is concern in that, you look at the age group, the youngsters 0 to 14, it's actually declining. When you look at, the group upwards, it's actually increasing. Persons of working age between 16 and 65, it's increasing now, but you're having a situation where it is that dependence is actually increasing as well. At some point in the future, you're going to have an issue where it is that the number of persons who are going into the working age group is actually far less than those who are going in the dependency age. And it creates problem from a pension perspective. If you may recall, the government of Jamaica doesn't have a fully funded pension plan. It's partly funded. So, that a significant portion of the pension actually comes from tax receipt. So in an environment where it is that you have very few persons of working age who are creating value in the society, then from a tax perspective, you could see a significant decline in tax there. And with the pension bill going up, etc., it has implication in terms of on the overall fiscal account, right? There's more to it than just looking at fiscal dynamics and so on. You look at perspective with respect to planning in terms of city. I hear plans a new city being constructed, and it begs the question: do we really need a new city? I know it's a controversial point, it's political, but in an environment where it is that the population is set to decline, and with regards to climate change, etc., destruction of the flora, it raises concern because it is that the population dynamics I don't think is supporting the sort of construction activities that are necessarily planned, especially in the St. Catherine area. So this is very concerning. When you look at healthcare, already it is that we have a significant shortages of bed, etc., and number of doctors, and as it is that the population age, there's a need for increase in primary health care. And as such, it is that this is an area which we have to actively look into so as to provide better care for those who need it when it is that it's required, as it is at their age. Another issue with respect to schooling, persons of school age are, you're going to have a decline there. While it is not imminent, within a 5-year period, but going down 20, 30 years, you're going to have decline there. So it begs the question, those persons who we're training to teach, are we overproducing in that area and so on, right? So there's a whole lot of issues which need to be addressed in terms of from the perspective of healthcare, in terms of persons who are training, and with respect to housing, construction, and so on, right? Because it has implication for growth and it has implication for the natural environment. And if you may recall, we're in an era where it is that climate change is real, and how it is that we treat the environment is going to be quintessential into, for the next generation. So the population dynamics has will have a significant impact with regards to the planning process, and it is something that the authority needs to take account of.
That's really interesting, Theodore, discussion there. I need to take a closer look at that data. But speaking of, population issues and healthcare, there are a lot of people who think the whole COVID-19 is a population control measure, a lot of conspiracy theories around that. So that brings me to our final topic for this evening, which is the new Omicron variant. Keisha, you've been following how the markets have been reacting to the new Omicron variant. And you also, I'm sure you remember what happened when the Delta variant came along.
Yeah.
So what, can you compare the two? Like, what is it looking like now?
Yeah, I'm doing some research on that right now, actually. So far, what we know, panic is here again. Based on what's coming out in the news, they're saying it's a reason for concern, not yet a reason to worry, but the market is feeling it. Our pockets are feeling it a bit as investors, because a lot of these major companies have been having sell-offs. I'm gonna just share my screen to cover that. But the news hit last week, Friday, for Black Friday. So I was very excited. I view this as the best Black Friday sale because time to go out then and buy stocks.
Sale on stocks.
Yes, all day Friday I was busy buying up because November 26th, Black Friday, was the worst trading day of the year so far. If you see the numbers here.
Wow.
The other times, May, January, July were pretty bad, but November 26th was so far the biggest day of losses within the stock market. So a day definitely to do some nice shopping on sale. The thing that's been happening though, when we look at the price charts for the S&P 500, on the one day, even today, we continued lower because new fears are surfacing. The cases are going up. It's being reported more and more new cases. We're having new restrictions in countries as well. So we're seeing a lot there, especially the tech stocks. They've been taking a hit as well. They're down today. And in the past 5 days, down a lot. Same as the broader market, it's down as well. One saving grace in all of this has been Apple, which has been doing well. Because now Apple is being viewed as a safe haven because the company is sitting on a whole wad of cash. So interesting there. I'm very curious. But so far it has the early inklings of further sell-offs expected. So we're still early days.
Coming like gold.
Yes. So everybody has been buying this up as a safe haven because Apple is sitting on a lot of cash. So the thinking then is that if, things just go haywire and new strain becomes dominant, then you want these companies that are strong, they're resilient. Apple for sure it's one of these companies. So investors rushed into Apple today, and I suspect that will continue happening because post-market after hours, you see that the stock is still going up higher. So one to watch, but I think we're in early innings. There will likely be more sell-offs coming for the Christmas, which is good. Time to, load up there.
All right, so let me give this last one to David. It's a question from the audience, and he asks, Jano wants to know, what about exit strategy in the pandemic?
Oh, exit. Right now, you just have to, depending on the market area, if you're in Jamaica, it's potentially the time to look at rebalancing or bolstering a cash position, particular deals. And on the flip side, if you're in the US markets, this is where, you would probably want to be putting those stop losses, because right now a lot of persons who are on margin, they have to be rushing to put cash into their accounts because your stock price declines, particular stock holdings, it can put into a margin call where you can actually sell your stocks. So it's right now some stocks are still going down, and they are in a relatively better position, but we'll still have to wait and see how things are going to play out. But right now, I said potentially we need to between rebalancing your portfolio to quote unquote safe stocks in one sense, and other persons putting in stop losses to contain any potential losses.
And then Keisha, this question is for you from the same person. He wants to know, why are the stocks down? Explain the causes for the turning points. Don't just read the graphs, explain it, he said. I think you were explaining it. You're talking about the effect of the Omicron virus, but go ahead. You want
all right, so what usually happens, fear results in sell-off, results in stock prices coming down because people panic, so they start selling. They start thinking, boy, everything going bad, I need to get out, I need to get my cash and store it. So that's what's causing the fall off in the prices. Investors are coming out. Some investors would be taking gains because they expect the price to come low, so they say, no, and let me take some gains. No. Others are just panicking, fearing the worst, and so they're selling. That's what would cause now the price to go down. What I'm saying is that as a long-term investor, you could use this as a potential buying opportunity because the stock will not go down forever. It will not. March 2020 showed us that. There was a massive fall off in the market, but there was a rebound after that. So what I'm saying is that these opportunities don't come every day. When they do come, it is time to get in.
And I actually have a lovely chart that I can show you demonstrating exactly what you just said. And this is something that I created for the masterclass. Hold on, let me bring it up. So masterclass people, this is the type of thing that you will see when that launches. Hold on.
And just a reminder, you have proven already. I'm going to say I want to remind you that you have ideal and portfolio services and proven wealth. If you want to check the US markets,
right,
those persons are looking to find greater exposure outside of JMD holdings or investments.
Yeah.
Why is this moving? Okay, it's not showing me the right graphic. Here it is. No, that's not it. Where is it? This one. This is the one. JSE combined index. It's not giving me the right graphic. All right, hold on. I'll soon give it to you. I really want to show you this graphic because, trust me, the amount of work I've been putting in on this thing. It's giving me some trouble. It's not cooperating with me right now. Close. Oh, here we go. All right, here it is. Let's share the screen again. Here it is. All right, so this is a kind of a small version because it wasn't working with the large one I was trying to show you. But yeah, this shows you what happened. See, every time I maximize the screen, it goes to a different thing for some reason. That's not what I'm trying to show you. Behave. Here it is.
You can see it. You have to go in. You have to go in.
2019, you saw that COVID
Control
surge.
plus Kalilah. Control
right
plus
here.
zoom in.
Control plus, yes. How did I forget that?
You're welcome.
2019, you saw that surge where the stock market was climbing. And then here is the crash right around March when we had our first case of COVID-19. And then we start seeing the recovery in 2021. This chart only goes up to August, though. But you get the point.
Right.
So between 2019 and the point I was making with creating this slide was that between 2019 and 2021, which accounts for the 2020 COVID crash, we're still up 33% in Jamaica. So
well,
that's up to August. That's up to August. I'd have to do it again to see what it would look like for up to November, because August is when I was preparing this. I'm still working on it.
So Kalilah, I was just gonna point out, I did an article recently, and most of that growth can be attributed to really a good chunk of the junior market and the introduction of Guardian Holdings, to be honest. So when I checked it out, of the 120 securities that were listed on the JSE when 2020 started, only I believe it was 39 are actually up over the pre-COVID prices. And remember, Guardian has listed recently, where it had 2 APOs. You had Tropical Battery and Fesco listing. So the combined index is showing that data, but when you look at it from a more individualist perspective, most of the market is still not where it should be from a quote unquote pre-COVID level. Because January, when the year started, would have been the best indicator of comparison.
But still, remaining invested is the ultimate way to go, right? So
I think
yes,
so.
the combined index is not investable right now, but still having your money in the market is better than being on the sidelines. There's no money made there. In the market is where
And
you need to be.
the thing I say, Theodore, as well, you can jump in here too and tell me what you think, is that when the market is down, if you were listening to Keisha, listeners, you hear what Keisha did Black Friday when the stocks tumbled? That's when she was
Bye.
buying, a buying
No, she's right.
opportunity. And I feel the same about Jamaican stocks, that when they are down, that is the time, especially if you, because the fundamentals of most of the companies are still the same.
Yes.
NCB gone down to 120. Last year it was, not last year, 2019, early 2020, it was
240 high.
$210. Is
240 high.
NCB any less of a strong company now than it was then? And we give the disclaimer, this is not financial advice. Please consult your licensed financial advisor there at JMMB before you make any financial decisions. Right, Theodore?
Yes, ma'am. And I would like to add that you don't just buy stocks because they go down. Please look at the fundamentals, as you
Right.
rightfully say. Check with your financial advisor, because it is that if a stock is just not good, it's just not good, right? But there are some stocks out there that they're not doing so
Yeah.
great right now.
Exactly. For
And
example, Didi. Just because Didi's share price gone down doesn't mean you should buy it. That's
Right.
a perfect example.
Yes.
There's a reason some of them go down, like good reason. Well, this was a great discussion, guys. I really want to thank you for joining me this week, and we'll talk again very soon.
All
What
right,
week
take
is it?
care,
The
fellow
last?
panelists.
I
Kalilah.
think I'll speak to you guys again before the year ends.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
It's great,
Bye-bye.
great to be here, Kalilah, every time.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. Very
Bye.
short break. We'll be back with the wrap.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers.
So let me just take a couple of comments from all of you. Kai Bernard says, so it seems that, where's the comment? No, that's not what the one. It seems like some stocks haven't bounced back yet. That means one thing: buy, sail off, sail off. So yeah, once again, the point that Theodore was just making, if it's a fundamentally sound stock, and that's what Kai also mentioned, if they're strong fundamentally, that is. Jano making the same point, a crash is really a buying opportunity. So once again, with the disclaimer, if it's a fundamentally sound company. Lots of comments here, and I am very grateful to have you. Before we go, I also have to say big up Riri. My bad. The Right Honorable Robin Rihanna Fenty, the new national hero of, I nearly said Jamaica, you know. But Jamaica can't make Bob Marley a hero yet. So anyway, that's a discussion for another day. Thank you to everyone for joining me this week. I will see you again, same time, same place next week. Check out all the other features this week. Money Mondays JA is up. We're talking about the circuit breaker rule for those who've always wondered what it was, what it does, and how it affects you and your pocket. You can check that out on the channel now. Also, check out Money Moves JA tomorrow. This was a really great interview with Daniel Terrelong from DRT Communications and Scale Up Jamaica. We're talking about networking, not just the pros and cons of networking, but also how you can do it. What are great ways to reach out to people? She shared her tips on how she reached out to some of Jamaica's top business leaders to gain their insights, to pick their brains. And there are some strategies that you might not have thought of. So check out that interview tomorrow on the channel. I'll see you again next week. And of course, investing is the new sexy. So we want to make it cool to talk about money. Subscribe to the newsletter, KalilahReynolds.com/newsletter. I'll keep you posted as to what's happening with the masterclass. Right now, I'm trying to fine tune the investing spreadsheet, the portfolio tracker. Having a few technical issues with getting that just right. So yeah, it's gonna be there though. The videos are done. The ebook is almost done. It's just the supporting documents that I'm trying to get perfectly right for you guys to make sure that it works and you can use it throughout 2022 and beyond. Until then, let's get this money. Bye-bye.
Let's get this money.